Hey guys, it's Eric here at Farpoint Restorations and Repairs. Today I'm going to show you how to turn that ugly looking thing there with pitting and warpage into that. We're going to be using a brake lathe. Now normally I don't like to use brake lathes. Honestly, it just seems like it's a comeback generator for the most part. Customers come in with warp rotors. You turn the warp out of them, which is what I'm going to show you to do in this video. But in the end, they are thinner, which means they have less mass, which means they heat up more rapidly, which means they rewarp again much more quickly. That being said, the unit I'm going to be using to do this on is a Hunter alignment or brake lathe. It's a little more complicated than the AMCO ones you're likely to see in most shops, but the operation of how to go about doing this is pretty much the same. First thing to know is you're going to have to find out what the spec is, what the minimum turning thickness is. Let's say on this vehicle, from the factory spec would be 25 millimeters. And the throwaway spec on it would be 23 millimeters. So that gives you 2 millimeters that you can cut out of it, but obviously we don't want to cut one to the minimum. So usually you can turn a set of rotors one time, carve about 1 millimeter out of it, and you'll end up with a non-warped rotor that works. The tool that I'm using here, this Hunter one, has all the measurement stuff built in, but I prefer to just use a micrometer, which I've already done here. These are able to be turned. You can see what the finished product there looks like. You can also see, and I'll get closer up on this here, you can also see the damage that we got here. So this is pitting from the vehicle sat for a long period of time. You can even tell where the rotor was. And then if we flip it over, you can see it's even more damaged in the outer edge here, not making contact with the pads or scrubbing. This is all bad. Now, things to look for when a customer complaint, if your car is, they're going to come in with a complaint that the car shakes while braking. To figure out whether or not it's the front or the rear, you're going to ask some follow-up questions. Does it shake the steering wheel wobble? Does it vibrate while braking? If it does, and it's most commonly going to be that side, it's going to be the front brakes that are causing that shake. They're going to be warped. If they're saying the whole vehicle shakes, well, that's an indication then that the rear brakes are warped. Usually it's going to be the fronts because they do so much more of the work than the rears do, and that's what you end up with. The other thing you can look for visually when you pull a car in for an inspection is blued spots around it or record grooving where you can put your finger across that. It should be nice and smooth, and this one has record grooves in it, so you can turn that out as well. These are going to be visual inspections, but a test drive is the best way to verify the complaint. All right, let's take it over to the machine here. I'll show you how we set this thing up. Okay, so like I said, an AMCO one might be slightly different, and some of the cone usage is different. You can have ones that are manual. We have this nice piece right here that goes in there. Let's slide that in there and grab the inner hub bearing, and then we're going to use this to tighten it down. Okay, once you got that tightened down, we need to stack these so that we can put a reverse threaded end on here. And these don't have to be stupid tight. This is just snug to keep it from moving. Cool, and that's pretty much that. This one is nice. It does have a light on it. Now, the important thing to remember about cutting is that you don't want to carve out too much or you end up with a really bad, it's rough. It's not the smooth, polished look you're looking for. So a lot of times with these machines, and I know time is money, which is another reason why using a brake lathe in general is just a bad idea. It just wastes time, and time is worth a lot when you're a mechanic. But you're usually going to have to make 2 or sometimes even 3 passes. A rough cut, a smooth cut, and a finishing cut is usually where it gets. And of course, depending on the amount of warp, you may have to do it even more than that. This piece here, I'm going to move the camera over here so you can see, is the next part we're going to adjust. Okay, so this piece here has our adjustment, and you can actually see hopefully you can see there's actually dials on this to give yourself a small in or out. On this side here, you have these 2 screws. We're going to loosen that up. That allows our blades here to move forward or back. And then I'm going to roll this thing in. I'm going to back it out. And we're going to get this thing right about to the middle of our brake rotor. And I'll show you that here in a second once we connect it. Then we're going to move these out until it just touch. You can feel it get snug, and we'll tighten that down. We'll do the same on this side, and we'll tighten that down. Let me get the camera over to the side here, and hopefully you can see what I mean. We're trying to get it about even inside of there. Now, one piece that's missing from this is there's a rubber band you can put around here that keeps the noise down, keeps the unit from making a ringing sound. Ours broke and we just haven't replaced it yet. Should not affect the final thing. Some people say it can cause chattering, but never been done in my experience. All right, let's fire this thing up. You're going to hear some pretty nasty noises. Right on, and what we're looking for is that contact, right? So once we know that we have it set up properly, I'm gonna go ahead and roll this thing all the way in, and then I'm gonna engage it, and little by little, it's going to cut all the way to the end. And the process takes between 5 and 10 minutes. And that's it. Depending on how bad the warp is, we'll be able to see it once this pass is done. I'm gonna pause the camera, we'll let it do its thing, and we'll check back. All right, as you can see, we're cutting. Hopefully you can hear me. We've got it pushed to the disc. Our unit is rotating slowly, and if you look closely, we can see the warpage starting to show up. Where it's connected versus where it's not. So this is definitely gonna take 2 passes. Like I said, usually 3 gets the job done. But let's take a look, we'll let it run through, and we'll check it again. All right, wow. So you can totally see here, the warpage on this side is much worse than the other side, but didn't even come in contact with that side. But we're gonna have to cut this at least another 2 times. The back side is a little better. We take a look at the back side here. You can see we got a pretty decent initial cut, but we do have areas that it did not touch and areas that it did touch. So again, it's gonna take more than 1 pass. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and fire this thing back up. And we're gonna screw it back down in. Again, to about the halfway point. And we're gonna loosen this dial here. Make sure you can see what I'm doing here. We're gonna loosen that up, screw it down a bit. And then to get the object moving, and there it goes. Let's wait again. Last pass here. You can see just a little bit of warp remains. And we'll move the speed down on this thing to slow, and hopefully it will cut anything left out of it. We'll wait and see. And that's it, my friends. After 3 cuts, we end up with a smooth surface. Is it as good as it was from the factory? Nope. But it's a lot better than it was. You've cut the edge off here. You've knocked out that rust and the record grooves that were in this. There's still some, I mean, you could make another pass, but honestly, the customer's not gonna feel it's mostly cosmetic at this point. So that's it. I've taught you how to use a brake lathe. I've also talked to you about why you shouldn't bother. And now you know. Till next time, my friends, take care.